Hi, and welcome back to Kyle's Financial News. Gosh, at this point, it might as well just be Kyle's daily update of GameStop, but I think not for very much longer. I am your host, Kyle. Today's date is June 7th, 2024. GameStop just had another absolutely wild day and overnight session. So we covered it in a video yesterday, talking about how it was up 47% for the day. Then the stock market closed and it continued to just skyrocket. It was up another something 35%, all the way up to about a high of $67 in overnight sessions. And then, as if that wasn't already interesting enough, and then the company just suddenly decided to release their earnings ahead of time at about 3 a.m. Suppose that I'm Pacific Coast, so I suppose that would be about 6 a.m. East Coast. But I'm fairly certain the earnings were not planned to be released until a day next week. So this came as a surprise. They missed both revenue and earnings, so that was not a great sign, but somewhat expected. That was already forecasted. What was not expected, though, was the emergency overnight rushed SEC filing where they announced that they are releasing and selling another 75 million shares. No bueno. And this was something I covered in a video, I believe early last week, one of my first videos, where I mentioned how these companies that don't have a lot of revenue, have been around a long time, kind of have a failing business model. You got to be cautious of those share offerings where they're basically just going to be seeking additional equity to be able to do with whatever they need to do. Now, in some more dire circumstances where a company is kind of destined to go under, you might see those funds just be used to continue to satisfy payroll and keep at least the higher management, upper management employed. I don't think that's necessarily what's happening here, but having just done a 45 million share round not even a month ago, to now adding in another 75 million shares, we're talking about some serious dilution to your regular shareholder here. So that's nothing to be ignored. A little concerning, just browsing around through Reddit and reading about kind of user sentiment or investor sentiment, I suppose. A little concerning is just the response of individual investors, retail investors on these platforms. They seem to either not understand what's going on. A number of them seem to think this is manipulation through hedge funds and bigger players. It's not. It's just the company saying, well, we're going to take advantage of this and rake in as much cash as we can. So naturally, the moment that they announced that, I imagine that was the same time that they started selling. So the earnings came out, and then it was an absolute fire sale from about $62, $65 a share, and it opened this morning around $38 a share. So pretty significant drop from the overnight session into this morning's session. And we were already seeing about 45 million shares in volume being traded before the opening bell. So I suspect that they have already offloaded a significant portion of that 75 million shares that they were planning to sell. And I also suspect that they finished selling all of the remaining 35 million or so of that total count throughout the early hours once the market opened. It just seemed like there was persistent selling going on any relief rally or pump that was able to be going on there. So yeah, brutal stuff. Absolutely brutal stuff. Just gotta take that into consideration when you're looking at this as an investment. maybe the company is able to take that money and do something really positive in terms of like turning around their business model and creating future income. But they have done these share offering rounds in the past, the most recent years especially, to continue to make up for their net loss, and haven't really done that much with it. At one point, I know they tried that NFT marketplace. I never even saw it. I think it was a thing, at least. I'm pretty sure it was around for 9 months or so, and then they shut it down. So probably a little bit too late to the NFT scene. And, you already have other companies like OpenSea and Solana. They have their own marketplace. They're already really doing pretty well with the NFTs. I don't think there was really value to be added there by GameStop coming into it. So I'm curious to see what they'll do next. In my own opinion, I would be a little bit concerned that they don't have a game plan, and really a very different opinion is what we're seeing from Roaring Kitty. So he did his YouTube live this morning. He was about 20 minutes late. He finally came online. Over 600,000 people were tuning in to watch him live. It was absolutely insane live viewership numbers. That was completely unexpected. And I think most of the viewers were expecting their kind of proclaimed messiah to have some genius strategy on how the stock price was going to go to $1,000 a share. People were hoping that he was going to start executing his call contracts on stream, which I don't even know if that would be legal. I think that's a pretty gray zone to be trading live with that type of volume. If it was like a delayed stream or a pre-recorded stream, it would probably be okay. I'm not sure if it is illegal. I just think it's kind of a caution zone. Just because of how much volume he's dealing with, that might maybe not be the best idea. He talked about the company for a little bit. He talked about himself for a little bit and showed his positions. They are exactly the same as he has kept them throughout this whole last week, completely unchanged. And he just kind of furthered the sentiment, I guess, that he has been pitching the whole time, which is just that he just likes the stock, and this is just a YOLO trade for him. He's in it for the long haul. And he believes that Ryan Cohen will eventually have some genius idea to turn this company around. And we will only have to wait to see if that ends up coming to fruition. What Ryan did with Chewy.com was basically bring it into the digital age, right? He brought it into the world of the internet and modernized web shopping and e-commerce, and that was his revolutionary step with Chewy. GameStop is already operating online. You can already, they already have an online store. They already have an online customer base and already had. So obviously he's not going to be able to reutilize the same strategy that he took from one and apply it to this one. And he's probably working on some completely different ideas, and not all of them are going to be a success. So I'm not trying to dog on him just because what he's done so far has not worked out. Just that raking in $4 or $5 billion through shareholder dilution without really any hint as to what the company might be doing with it, I don't see that instilling investor confidence is all. If they're just going to continue to eat losses and continue to dilute shareholders so that they can keep the doors open, then there's got to be some ulterior plan here. So we'll see what ends up happening there. I just find this whole thing very interesting to follow along with. I think Roaring Kitty's crowd is probably unwavered by his kind of lack of, I suppose, like strategy that he was revealing. I think a lot of people were hoping that he had some master plan that he was going to go into details about, and he kind of just got on stream and was just being his same old goofy fun self. The whole thing was just kind of like a joke to him, and quite frankly, of all the people in kind of the GameStop scene, he's one of the only ones that can afford to be that way. Everybody else is just operating on pretty small retail accounts, buying more and more shares as they can with their paycheck or wherever they're getting income from, disposable income from. And meanwhile, Mr. Gill has $29 million of cash still sitting in his brokerage account. We don't even know how much cash he's got outside of his brokerage account. So I would say if anybody can afford to just goof around and have a good time, it's him. And if his position still goes to zero, if the company went bankrupt tomorrow, he still has $30 million in cash. I don't think most of his followers can say the same. So just need to keep in mind the risk here is that Mr. Gill is just a regular speculative investor like the rest of us, and he doesn't have any more insight than your neighbor might. And it's not like he's having meetings with GameStop administrators and seniors and CEOs or whatnot. He's not consulting with financial experts. He doesn't have, sounds like he doesn't have a lawyer that he's even consulting with on what he can talk about or not talk about. But my understanding is he can pretty much talk about his positions freely, just with a little disclaimer of, this is not financial advice. There's nothing illegal about saying, hey, I'm going to buy this stock, or I bought this stock, here's my positions. Like, that's completely fair. You don't have to, hedge funds and bigger institutional investors have to reveal that stuff by law. It has to be publicly available to be able to see what they're doing. So yeah, really interesting stuff. If you have any ideas or comments about that, please let me know. I'm just so interested in watching this whole thing play out. I think maybe some interesting history was made today, especially with how many viewers he had on his stream. That was just amazing. Aside from that, we just had a little bit of U.S. economy news this morning. The job market boomed with an additional 272,000 jobs added, and unemployment ticked up another 0.1% to 4% total. So we might be breaking that 27 or 29 month streak or so of keeping unemployment below or at 4% pretty soon here. Now, of course, that's leading into people kind of starting to further expect that we might see more of a soft landing than a harder landing. I think it's still just a little bit too early to tell, though. So we will just have to continue to monitor the data and analyze that as that data comes out. I am not expecting a decrease in interest rates anytime soon still. And when we do get the decrease in interest rates, is that a good thing? That will also have to be determined at that time. So that's all I have for today. Please like and subscribe the video. It means so much to me as a new creator on YouTube. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend, and I will have more financial news for you at the beginning of next week. So I will catch you later. Thanks so much.